Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're venturing into the world of Wai Mai, China's incredibly widespread food delivery service.
Right.
But here's the key insight right up front. This isn't just about convenience food. It's really about understanding how this, well, seemingly simple service evolved into the surprising backbone of a major retail transformation.
Exactly. You might initially think of food delivery as just like a way to get a meal without cooking. Simple.
Sure.
But in China, has fundamentally reshaped how people buy and receive all sorts of goods. We've been looking closely at IT journalist Makino Takafumi's newsletter, which highlights crucial keywords for understanding Chinese tech, and, well, first is definitely a term you need to know.
Our mission today, then, is to sort of unpack this transformation for you. How did the basic need for, a quick bite to eat blossom into the critical infrastructure, powering this massive shift in how goods are bought and sold across China?
Yeah, and who are the key players?
Right. We'll explore some surprising connections and the major players who drove this evolution. Okay, let's get right into it then. What exactly is in the Chinese context today, beyond just delivering dinner?
Well, the key takeaway here is that Xi'an has expanded dramatically beyond just restaurant takeout. I mean, that was its starting point, sure.
Okay.
But now it encompasses the delivery of almost anything you can imagine. Groceries, medicine, clothing. It even functions as a rapid, on-demand courier service for parcels.
Wow.
If you've spent any time in a major Chinese city, you've undoubtedly seen them, the ubiquitous delivery riders. Blue for ile.me.
Ile.me, yeah, pronounced roughly ulumu, which kind of cleverly sounds like the question, are you hungry in Chinese?
Right.
And yellow for Meituan to you.
You see them absolutely everywhere. It's like they've created their own vital layer of urban logistics.
Totally.
So for listeners familiar with services like, say, Uber Eats or DoorDash, think of that model, but amplified significantly. Way bigger in terms of the variety of goods being moved. That's a good comparison, but yeah, amplified is the right word. And our source points out that even the terminology is shifting to reflect this broader scope.
Oh, okay.
Precisely. Anshi Taisong, or instant delivery, is actually becoming a more accurate way to describe it.
Instant delivery, right.
This term truly captures the, on-demand nature and the sheer diversity of items being transported. There was data from Anshu.com back in 2018, and while it's a few years old now, it already illustrated the shift. It showed that while food was the largest category at 81%, a substantial 19% was already composed of other goods.
19% non-food, even back then. Like what?
Things like fresh produce, general merchandise, parcels, all sorts.
That's a significant portion.
Yeah.
So how does this instant delivery model fundamentally differ from traditional e-commerce as we typically understand it, like Amazon, for instance?
Okay, so the core difference lies in the logistics underneath it all. Traditional e-commerce typically relies on these large centralized warehouses, right?
Right, big distribution centers.
And a delivery network optimized for longer distances, often resulting in next day or maybe even longer delivery times. In contrast, operates on a totally different model. It's decentralized, short distance.
Okay.
Drawing inventory directly from local brick-and-mortar stores. This is what enables that remarkably fast, often within the hour, delivery time frame.
Ah, okay. So it's leveraging existing local shops. It's a completely different logistical approach, more like a local network than a big national one.
Exactly.
Our source even mentions Amazon's Prime Now in Japan as a somewhat similar concept, but points out a key distinction in where the goods are actually sourced.
Yeah, that's right. While Prime Now also offers rapid delivery, it frequently still relies on Amazon's regional warehouses, not necessarily direct from store inventory in the same way.
Got it.
The true power of Kwang comes from leveraging the existing retail infrastructure within a city. This offers two key advantages. Sheer speed, obviously, and near round-the-clock availability for a much wider range of everyday needs. I mean, think about the common frustration of waiting at home for a traditional parcel delivery window.
Right.
Largely gets around that.
It really does redefine convenience, doesn't it? So who are the big winners here? Can you give us some tangible examples of retailers who are effectively using this instant delivery capability?
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing some really innovative strategies. Take Hema Fresh. That's Alibaba's grocery chain.
Kima, right. Heard of them.
So in Shenzhen, they partnered with Saibai Department Store to create something called Hima Mall.
Puloma, okay.
Yeah, and this isn't just a grocery store. It houses various other retailers like Uniqlo and Huawei, with a strong emphasis on products for families and kids. They operate on an O2O, or online to offline model,
O2O.
seamlessly integrating their physical and digital operations.
That's a fascinating blend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Integrating the physical and digital shopping experiences. It's not an either or, but like a powerful combination. And our source highlights a specific example from a children's clothing store within that Hema Mall. What was going on there?
Exactly. So they observed that customers would come into the store, their kids would try on clothes, that important touch and feel element.
Right, you need that with kids' clothes.
Yeah, and the parents might make some initial purchases, but then later, back home, they'd often realize they needed, say, another size or a different color.
Okay.
And because they had already seen and touched the product in person, they were much more likely to just place a quick follow-up order through their phones for instant delivery.
Lever.
And this apparently significantly increased their overall customer spending.
That's incredibly smart. They're using the physical store visit to basically drive follow-up online sales and build, well, stronger customer relationships.
What are some other interesting ways retailers are using this?
Well, there's Yantai Department Store. In urban centers, they've partnered with Alibaba with a particular focus on cosmetics.
Cosmetics, okay. Yeah, they identified this consistent demand for deliveries to nearby office buildings during the workday, ideal for busy professionals who maybe lack the time for traditional shopping trips.
Makes sense. Quick top up at the desk.
But what's particularly interesting is the demand they also saw at night. From single female residents in nearby apartments, even after regular store hours when the physical store is shut,
Right.
they're still placing delivery orders for cosmetics via the app.
So even when the physical storefront is closed, they're still reaching and serving customers. It's all about capitalizing on that immediate convenience pretty much any time of day or night.
Exactly.
But this whole urgy ecosystem had to start somewhere, right? Tell us at the genesis who first conceived of this idea as like a formal business.
Okay, yeah, the origin story. The beginning of as a structured business venture can be traced back to 2008, and it started with a really fundamental student need at Shanghai Jiaotong University.
Okay, university students.
The initial spark, a collective wunum, dusi ella.
Which means?
I'm hungry.
The most universal of human experiences, of course. But the concept of egg itself, of takeout food that wasn't entirely new to China, was it? This wasn't an invention from scratch.
No, that's correct. You're right. In China, adu traditionally just referred to restaurants offering takeout, packing meals for customers to take home or to their workplaces.
Right.
You'd also commonly see restaurants selling prepackaged meals near university campuses and business districts. But it was largely a localized offline kind of practice, individual restaurants doing their own thing.
Enter Zhang Zuhao, a master's student at Shanghai Jiaotong University. He saw an opportunity to, formalize and scale this existing concept?
That's the guy. Zhang Zuhao recognized that by acting as an intermediary, like a facilitator for these takeout orders, he could tap into a significant unmet demand.
Okay.
But his vision actually went further than just delivery. He had the foresight even then to understand that this service could collect incredibly valuable data on consumer eating habits.
Data.
Yeah, potentially opening up opportunities for consulting services for the restaurants themselves.
So it was about more than just logistics from the start. It was about gathering valuable consumer insights too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were the very, very early days like? How did he actually get this off the ground with presumably limited resources?
Oh, totally limited. In the beginning, it was a very grassroots effort. He partnered with just one local restaurant initially.
One restaurant?
Yeah. And his initial customer base consisted of his own friends and acquaintances. And remember, this was the pre-smartphone era.
Right, no apps yet.
So they used scanned menus hosted on a basic web page, and orders were placed via email. It was a remarkably simple setup, like bare bones.
Talk about a lean startup, wow. And this ultimately led to the formal creation of a company.
Yes, in April 2009, Rajex Network Technology was officially founded. Interestingly, Rajex is apparently Sanskrit for thick faith.
Thick faith. Okay.
And Zhong Zhuhao was so dedicated to this venture, so convinced, that he actually declined a PhD offer from Hong Kong Polytechnic University to focus entirely on building the business.
Wow, that's a significant commitment. So what were their key strategies for gaining traction in those early pre-app days? How do they grow from one restaurant and some emails?
Well, their initial growth strategy was multifaceted and honestly quite clever. First was the name itself, Waitan. Mai.
Right, you mentioned that sounds like hungry.
Exactly. It sounds very similar to hungry or are you hungry? In Chinese, a phrase people use constantly. It was incredibly memorable and, relatable, just stuck in your head.
That's definitely a stroke of marketing genius right there.
Yeah.
Simple but effective. What other tactics did they employ to spread the word?
Well, they sent a mass email to around 30,000 students and staff at Shanghai Jiaotong University.
Using the university's own email system, bold.
Yeah, and it proved incredibly effective. Your name quickly became a buzzword on campus. Did get him into a bit of trouble, though. Led to Zhang Shuhao's email account being temporarily suspended for violating university regulations.
Huh. A minor setback for a major surge in awareness, I guess. And how did they convince local restaurants, beyond that first one, to partner with this new, untested service? That must have been tough.
Oh, that required a tremendous amount of personal effort. Shoe leather, basically. Zhang Zuhao and his team employed what they called the roller operation.
Roller operation.
Yeah, which involved relentlessly going door to door to restaurants near the university. Zhang Zuhao himself reportedly visited some restaurants up to 40 times just to persuade them to join their platform.
40 times. That's persistence.
Yeah, he was known to visit up to 100 restaurants in a single day sometimes, just grinding.
That's the kind of relentless dedication you often hear about in successful startups. And what was the initial value proposition for these restaurants? What did Alibaba offer them?
The initial business model was straightforward, charging restaurants an 8% commission as a delivery fee.
Okay, 8%.
And in those early days, Zhang Suhao was absolutely all in, often working extremely long hours, very little sleep, personally handling delivery sometimes, pitching to restaurants, even contributing to the platform's development late into the night. His, unwavering dedication fostered a strong sense of trust within his small team.
It sounds like a classic story of early startup hustle, building it block by block. And it paid off, right? Became the go-to delivery service for students at that university.
Yeah, by around 2010 was indeed thriving. It was pretty much the exclusive food delivery service for Shanghai Jiaotong University students. They'd partnered with about 30 restaurants by then and were processing approximately 500 orders daily.
500 a day, just on one campus. Not bad.
And the university even acknowledged their success, awarding them a significant sum like 450,000 RMB, maybe 7 million yen, in a student entrepreneurship competition.
Ah, that must have helped.
Totally. That attracted further investment and really fueled their expansion plans.
So from a simple expression of hunger, it really snowballed into a viable business.
Yeah.
But it didn't remain confined to just one university campus, did it? How did they expand beyond that?
No, it didn't. So the story goes, a female student from East China Normal University named Min Ji actually reached out, requesting services on her campus, and that marked the beginning of their expansion to other universities across Shanghai.
Okay, so demand started pulling them outwards.
Yeah, and they also started targeting office areas within the city. By the end of 2010, they had grown pretty significantly, 20,000 registered users and handling around 3,000 orders each day.
That's rapid growth in a relatively short time frame. And then the rise of smartphones occurred, which I imagine must have been a pivotal moment for...
Oh, absolutely. Huge moment. Quickly recognized the immense potential of smartphones and developed their own mobile app.
Game changer.
Totally. This technological leap enabled them to expand their service area citywide in Shanghai and then rapidly into other major cities like Beijing, Hangzhou, Guangzhou, Tianjin.
The big ones.
Yeah. Zhang Suhao truly was an innovator, creating a service model that hadn't previously existed in China at that scale. He saw the need and built it.
He definitely identified a fundamental need and built a scalable solution from the ground up, a real first mover. But as our source highlights, sometimes initial innovation isn't enough to maintain market dominance, right?
That's often the case.
That's where Meituan and its founder, Wang Xin, enter the narrative.
Exactly. Wang Xing. Now, he's often characterized as a very astute observer and a strategic follower.
A follower? How so?
Well, he had this remarkable ability to take existing successful models like he created Asa, which mimicked Facebook, and Asin, which mimicked Groupon.
Ah, okay. Copied successful ideas.
Copied, but then refined them, and ultimately achieved market dominance in China with his versions. He had a reputation for being incredibly analytical and, well, strategic in his thinking, very sharp.
So how did Wang Xing and Meituan enter the trend market and begin to compete with the established player? What was his angle?
Okay, so Wang Xing was meticulously analyzing Ritz's publicly available sales data because, data is key for him.
Right.
And he noticed a rather surprising anomaly. The city of Fuzhou was ranking really high fifth place in terms of sales volume for Ella.me.
Fuzhou. Why was that surprising?
Because, based on Meituan's own data regarding purchasing power in different cities, Fuzhou was expected to rank much lower, somewhere around 30th. This discrepancy immediately caught his attention. It didn't add up.
That's the sign of a very sharp business mind, noticing these seemingly insignificant detail that others might miss. What did this unexpected data point reveal to Wang Xing?
It led him to a crucial realization. Ella.me was actually only operating in 12 of the top 30 cities with high purchasing power in China.
Only 12 out of the top 30.
Yeah, leaving a significant 18 potential markets completely unserved, or at least underserved, by them. He recognized this as a massive opportunity for expansion. Untapped potential.
So while Wunxia was focused on those initial high-demand cities, Wang Jing identified all this potential elsewhere. What was his core strategy to capitalize on this? How did he go after it?
His strategy was remarkably insightful. He decided to first establish a strong and dominant position in those 18 underserved cities, build a significant user base, brand recognition there.
Okay, focus on the gap.
Exactly. His plan was then to leverage this established strength and reputation to directly compete with Thierssoon in the original 12 cities where they were already operating. Kind of surround them first.
It's a classic strategic maneuver, isn't it? Focusing on uncontested territories before directly engaging the dominant player. But why were those 18 cities being overlooked by in the first place? What was Wang Xing's key insight into Zhang Shao's approach?
Right. This is critical. Wang Xing had a critical understanding, or maybe a different perspective, on Zhang Zuhao's underlying assumptions. Zhang Zuhao was primarily focusing on cities where there was already a demonstrable existing demand for do,
How did he measure that?
based on things like pre-existing takeout sales figures, the presence of food trucks, that kind of thing. Visible demand.
Okay.
Wang Jing, however, believed in proactively creating and cultivating demand in markets where it didn't yet visibly exist. He wasn't just going to cater to what was already there, he was going to build the market.
That's a fundamental difference in business philosophy, isn't it? One reactive to existing trends, the other actively shaping new ones. Very different mindsets.
Totally different.
And Wang Xing didn't just enter these new markets blindly, did he? Our source mentions a pivotal partnership that gave Meituan a significant advantage.
Absolutely. A truly critical move. This was Wang Xing's strategic partnership with Dianping.
Dianping, that's like the Yelp of China, right? Restaurant reviews.
Exactly. At the time, it was a hugely popular restaurant review and local business discovery service, very similar to Yelp or maybe Tabelog in Japan. And crucially, Dianping later merged with Meituan in 2015, making this an even more powerful alliance down the line.
Okay, so they teamed up.
Yeah.
How did this partnership with Dianping specifically give Meituan competitive edge in the rapidly growing Tarid market? What did it let them do?
Well, they did something really smart. They seamlessly integrated options like order, queue for wait times, and crucially, Tarid delivery directly onto each restaurant's page on the Dianping platform.
Ah, right there on the review page.
Yeah. So instead of a user just searching Dianping for a place to eat out, they could easily browse restaurants based on reviews, photos, location, and then right there, within the same platform, effortlessly choose the Tarid delivery option if they decided they prefer to eat at home or in the office.
That's a much more streamlined and user-friendly experience. It intercepts the customer much earlier in their decision-making process. They're already thinking about food, looking at menus.
Precisely. Wang Xing astutely understood the consumer psychology at play. By presenting going out to eat and delivery as direct alternatives within the same interface, the relatively small delivery fee suddenly appeared much more appealing compared to the perceived effort, maybe travel time, maybe cost, of physically going to a restaurant.
Yeah, it frames the choice differently.
It cleverly leveraged that desire for convenience right at the point of decision.
And it clearly worked. The source indicates a significant shift in market share occurred as a result of these strategic moves by Meituan.
Oh yeah, big time. By 2019, Meituan had achieved a dominant 65% market share in the Urdubiz sector.
65%. Wow. What about May?
May trailed at 27%. This established what's known in China as the 631 structure.
631. What's that?
It's where a leading player has roughly double the market share of the second-place competitor, 60% met as 30%, and then everyone else fights over the remaining 10%. The theory is, once you hit that 6-3, the number 2 player's incentive and maybe even ability to aggressively compete really diminishes. Their dominance solidifies.
A classic example of how strategic positioning and, well, network effects can lead to market consolidation. So what happened to Ellie.me in the face of this growing dominance by Meituan? How did they respond? They needed to fight back somehow.
Well, needing substantial capital to continue competing effectively started seeking external investment, big investment.
Makes sense. They needed firepower.
And this is where Alibaba, under Jack Ma, stepped in. They made a significant investment in December 2015, about 1.25 billion RMB.
Okay, so Alibaba backs Ellie.me.
Yes, and this is crucial, it's important to understand that Alibaba's primary interest wasn't solely in the food delivery aspect itself. That wasn't the main prize for them.
Really? What was it then? Our source emphasizes that Alibaba's vision was much broader, right? Focusing on that instant delivery as a vital component of their really ambitious new retail strategy.
Exactly. You've got it.
Can you explain what new retail actually entails in Alibaba's vision? What were they trying to build?
Essentially envisions a future where the lines between online and offline shopping are like completely blurred, deeply integrated.
Yeah.
They aim to utilize physical stores not just as showrooms or places to buy things, but also as localized warehouses and fulfillment centers for on-demand instant delivery.
Using the stores as mini warehouses.
Precisely. So consumers gain this incredible flexibility. Buy in store, order online for traditional next-day delivery, or order online for rapid delivery dispatched from a nearby physical store. All seamless.
So the traditional e-commerce model, with its reliance on those large centralized warehouses, just wasn't fast enough or local enough to realize this new retail vision.
Exactly. Traditional e-commerce, even when highly optimized, often faces limitations with achieving truly rapid, same-day, let alone one-hour delivery for a wide range of goods. It's just not built for that hyperlocal speed.
Right.
To truly meet that immediate, I want it right now, consumer demand, you still needed the physical proximity of retail stores and a fast, local delivery network capable of handling those short distances quickly.
And this is precisely where existing companies like with their established rider networks and logistical expertise.
They became incredibly valuable, strategically vital.
They already possessed the essential infrastructure, the rider zooming around, the local logistics network, the understanding of how to execute these rapid short-distance deliveries efficiently. It makes perfect strategic sense for Alibaba.
Totally. It's slotted right into their bigger plan.
And ultimately, Alibaba moved to fully acquire, right? Not just invest.
Yes, the complete acquisition occurred in 2018. Interestingly, our source notes that Zhang Zuhao, the founder, he stepped down from the management team following the acquisition, and this event received relatively little media coverage, apparently, which, perhaps hints at some underlying complexities or maybe just the way these things go.
It's not uncommon for founders to depart after a major acquisition, true. But the source suggests that the Alibaba acquisition did have a positive impact on Rayon itself, particularly in certain key areas beyond just funding.
Oh, absolutely. One significant area of improvement was the refinement of the delivery operations themselves and, really importantly, the enhancement of rider welfare.
Rider welfare, that's crucial, because there were issues there, weren't there?
Yeah, definitely. In the earlier days of the industry boom, riders unfortunately gained this reputation for having one of the most dangerous jobs in China.
Really? Dangerous how?
Often driving recklessly, weaving through traffic, rushing to maximize their delivery numbers and therefore their earnings, which understandably led to serious safety concerns and wider social issues. Accidents, pressure.
That's a stark contrast to the convenience we as consumers often just take for granted, isn't it? It underscores the potential human cost that can sometimes be overlooked in these gig economy models.
Precisely. It's a really important point. However, both Meituan and Sting, under Alibaba, have since invested heavily in optimizing their logistics platforms.
How so?
They now utilize much more sophisticated algorithms to efficiently allocate multiple deliveries to riders based on location, routes, timing. The idea is to allow riders to complete more orders within their working hours, batching things intelligently.
Okay, smarter routing.
Yeah, and thus improve their earnings without necessarily needing to take those excessive risks or break traffic laws constantly. It's about efficiency driving income rather than just pure speed at all costs.
That's a crucial and welcome development, both for the safety and hopefully the livelihoods of these delivery workers. The source even touches upon the emergence of a new social demographic connected to this industry.
Yeah, it mentions the Xingqinian, the new youth.
New youth.
Often individuals from rural areas who have moved to the cities. They've found relatively stable employment and income through delivery work, which has enabled them to actually settle down, start families, and raise children in these urban environments, creating a new kind of urban working class in a way.
Interesting.
And we're even seeing a growing trend, apparently, of recent university graduates choosing to become torch riders, at least initially.
University grads. Why?
Attracted by the potential for higher initial earnings compared to many entry-level office positions, which might pay less starting out.
It's a fascinating societal shift that's directly linked to the growth of this delivery network. And just reminding ourselves, the sheer variety of goods that, or rather these instant delivery services now handles, is quite remarkable. It's way beyond food now.
It truly is. It's no longer solely about delivering meals, not by a long shot. They now facilitate the delivery of over-the-counter medications from pharmacies,
Okay, yeah.
convenience store items, clothing from retail shops, small household appliances, and they even handle the crucial last-mile delivery leg for some traditional courier companies, filling that final gap.
Right. So they've become the essential, on-demand, urban logistics infrastructure, the network that makes instant commerce possible.
Pretty much sums it up, yeah.
So when we zoom out and consider the broader implications here, Turney isn't just a standalone food delivery service anymore. It's really become a foundational pillar supporting this entire new retail revolution that's underway in China.
Exactly. Our source makes a pretty compelling historical analogy here.
Oh, yeah.
Drawing parallels between, say, Sears Roebuck's mail-order catalog in the 19th century, which transformed American retail,
Right, a huge shift.
and Amazon's transformative impact in the 20th century. The suggestion is that Alibaba's new retail, powered in large part by this instant delivery infrastructure pioneered by Ju and refined by Meituan, could well be the defining force in 21st century retail, certainly in China, and maybe influencing things globally.
It's almost unbelievable, isn't it, to think that it all traces back to that simple, everyday utterance? I'm hungry, spoken by some students at Shanghai Jiaotong University, just wanting a meal. A fundamental human need sparked a transformative business model and ultimately a fundamental reshaping of how commerce operates in China.
What's just fascinating here is how a seemingly localized solution to a very specific student problem has scaled up to become this national and potentially global influence on retail and logistics.
Yeah.
It really underscores the power of understanding basic consumer needs and then leveraging technology, the right tech at the right time, to meet them in innovative and really scalable ways.
So to bring it all together then, the key takeaway from our deep dive into Earthshow is that it has evolved far, far beyond its origins as a simple food delivery service.
Definitely.
It has become this vital urban logistics network underpinning Alibaba's ambitious new recon strategy, shaped by fierce competition with Meituan and fundamentally reshaping consumer behavior across China. It's really a surprising and impactful journey.
Driven by both that initial spark of innovation from Zhang Zuhao and then the strategic mastery, you could say, of Wang Xing, both play crucial roles.
Right.
And this raises a significant question, maybe, for you, our listener. Considering the model of instant local delivery we've discussed, driven by mobile platforms, dense urban populations, leveraging existing retail, how might this continue to evolve? Or how might it influence retail and logistics in other parts of the world?
Yeah, could it work elsewhere in the same way?
What existing infrastructures or maybe consumer behaviors in your own context where you live might either facilitate or perhaps impede a similar kind of transformation? It's definitely a fascinating area to consider further, don't you think?